All right, we are live. Welcome to the live stream of today's 2 Minute Tuesday topic. So, as people are jumping on, I'll just kind of introduce that this is today's live stream based off of our conversation this morning that we had in the video this morning about what do we do to begin even selling any of our artwork. So, like initial steps on actually taking steps to making money with our artwork. If you didn't see today's video, there's a link in the description down below, and then there's actually a link for the entire series that we've done on selling our work. So as we're jumping into things, we'll see if people are jumping on yet. So as you're jumping on, go ahead and we'll just do a little bit of roll call for the first minute or two here. So say hey to us, let us know where you're coming from and who's out there on the interwebs. Sean, what's up, buddy? Good seeing you. All right. So things are rolling. Let me make sure that cool. So my thing here says that the live stream is live, but it also says that we're offline. So I don't know what's going on with that. Obviously, you guys are jumping in, and obviously we got things going. So I'm just going to continue rolling unless you guys tell me otherwise. So, all right, Darren Scott, what's up, buddy? Good seeing you out there. How's everyone's Tuesday off to? Have you guys been busy at work, or is anybody tuning in from work too, by the way? I know some people kind of sneak it on their computer, maybe hide it in a browser behind everything else. All right. Giacomo? Hello from Italy. Hey, I probably butchered your name, so I think this is a new name in our chat, so welcome to the live stream. I don't know if we've chatted before, but I'm so glad you're here. Andrew Gomez, Jonathan LeBlanc. Jonathan's one of our patrons, actually, so welcome, Jonathan. He's actually, I believe, one of our he's one of our first executive producers who ever signed up for the executive producer spot over on Patreon, so thanks, Jonathan, I appreciate it. Also, Jacob, who is also one of our executive producers, so we got some executive producers in the house. Jacob Murphy, what's up, buddy? Good seeing you out there. Sean's at work. Nice. How do you? I'm curious to hear. Let's start off with that part of the conversation. How do you guys hide the fact that you are tuning into the live stream, or do you just work at a super lax place to where it doesn't matter if you're watching something or not? I'd love to hear. Mark Holmes, what's up, buddy? And too bad Brandon's not on here because I've said buddy like every single time I've said hi to someone, so he'd be taking a tally right now. Jonathan says, I'm driving and listening to the video. As long as you're only driving and listening to the video and that you're not driving and watching the video, I'm okay with it. We're glad to have you in here. Jacob says, have a meeting in a few, but we'll get in what I can. Nice. It's 11 p.m. here. Well, hopefully my smooth molasses of voice won't put you to sleep. We were just talking about it the other day. Emily was actually saying, because the first year that we were together, Emily was living about an hour away. So we had a lot of phone conversations and we kind of did the whole long distance thing. So she was telling me the other day that my voice was one of the things that made her fall head over heels for me. Baby, are you down there? Is her headphones on? Sean says, headphones on my phone, Lightroom up on my computer, so I'm still working. Nice. Sean, are you a photographer for a living? So what kind of photography do you do? We'll jump into the actual live stream here in a minute as people are jumping on. I'll probably jump over to Instagram and let everyone know that we are live. So let me do that real quick, and then Sean, let me know. And if any of you guys are working as professional photographers, whether it be doing corporate headshots or product photography or anything like that, I'd love to hear, and I'd love to hear a little bit about what it is that you do. So give me 1 second as I post up onto Instagram, letting everyone know that we're live. I make that nice and big, post it. There we go. Jacob says, I don't know if I should go by Jacob now that there's another Jacob here, or Murphy, but then I risk being confused with Garth. Yes, Jacob Murphy. I'll distinguish you as Jacob Murphy. How's that? Hello, hello. Lauer. I think it's probably Lauer. Welcome. Good seeing you out there. Sean says, yes, I work full-time. I'm a photographer for the Library of Congress. That's incredible. That sounds extremely interesting. Do you photograph, like, I guess I don't necessarily know what goes on at the Library of Congress, but I would imagine that it's probably a lot of preservation and different kind of photographs like that, maybe archival and documentation kind of stuff. I'm curious to hear. Happy TMT. John, what's up, buddy? Good seeing you out there. So we're about 5 minutes in, so I'm gonna get rolling, and you guys can continue doing roll call. Michael, it's good seeing you out there as well, and we're gonna dive in. I have a couple different things. Actually, let me pull up my notes here. Oh, come on. So I had a couple people send in some questions earlier today. We didn't get too many that I seen, and I didn't check just before we jumped on, but I didn't get too many in the comments of the video this morning. By the way, if you haven't seen the video this morning, there is a link in the description down below where you can go check it out. But maybe kind of, I don't know, you don't necessarily need to see it. You could watch it afterwards. But we did have a couple questions come in. Some people texted me some questions. For the few lucky people that have my phone number. But if you didn't see this morning's video, it was all about 3 actionable steps to taking that first step in selling our work. I do know that some people out there, you've been selling your work for years now. Some people are extremely established in different areas, and maybe these steps aren't necessarily applicable to what it is that you're trying to do within your photography. But for the typical person, the standard person who's going, look, I want to take that step, that next step in selling my artwork. I want to take that step in making money from my photography, making money from the craft that I've been pouring time, effort, energy, and probably money into. These are 3 just easy, actionable steps to start selling prints today. So shameless plug, I run Library Congress on Instagram. I'll have to check that out. It's really anything and everything, mostly daily events, concerts, book talks, preservations. That's incredible. That sounds a lot of fun. Sean, could you remind me about that later on and shoot me a message over on Instagram? I'd love to check that out because that's really cool. But anyways, going back to this morning's topic, so really just taking those first initial steps into selling our work. So if you remember, the first step is finding 2 or 3 different prints to start like moving into the idea of selling on, honing in on one size. Maybe it's 4x6, maybe it's 8x10, maybe it's 11x17, whatever it might be, but finding one size and then 2 or 3 different prints, and then starting to sell the story. That's the second step, is starting to put the story out there about the print, put the story out there about the image. That can mean all sorts of different things. I think it means something different to a lot of different people, and it means something different to a lot of different genres, but selling the story, because people buy based off of emotions, if you remember our first video. And then the last step is asking for the sale. So I wanted to throw those out there and initially do kind of a conversation about that, hear you guys' thoughts on this. Is this something that, have any of you guys, I really want to know, have any of you guys made this step already today in seeing the video this morning? Did any of you guys go immediately over to Instagram and start posting up stuff like that? Or I know that I've shared these steps with a couple of you guys, you know, within the last few weeks. I've had different personal messages come in to where people are asking, what's my first steps? And I gave them these 3 steps. So if you did that, I'd love to hear whether you had success or, you know, again, we'll call it failure, even though it's not necessarily a failure. And I'll probably even talk about that in a second. But what does that look like for you? How did that work for you? And I'm kind of curious to hear if you've stepped into this, or if you plan on stepping into this today, tomorrow, anything like that. So I'm going to take a sip and give you guys a couple minutes, or not a couple minutes, a couple seconds to get some comments rolling in here. Also, at this point too, I'll say I want to open this up too to a kind of open ended, you know, ask me anything on selling works. to give you a little bit of history and a little bit of background. So as people are writing out their comments or writing out their questions, to give you a little bit of history, starting back in 2016, I started actually taking that step into selling my work. I had sold some of my work way back in the day. 2012 and 13 were big years for growing a different community that I had, and I sold prints back then. But you know, I had the understanding, I had the sales savvy, because I was in sales before that, but I wasn't necessarily making the connection between the two. So I was kind of haphazardly just tossing up photos and going, here's like 15 different photos. If anybody wants anything like that, let me know. Which ironically, I did do a big sale last year with 15 different 4x6s. That was a huge smashing success, and probably brought in, I don't know, close to $800 to $900 of profit for me this last year. That was, I think it went on for like a week, maybe a week and a half. So that was a huge thing. So stuff like that can work, but you know, I wouldn't suggest jumping into something like that right off the get-go. So anyways, going back to my story, and I see that we do have comments rolling in, but going back to the story, so back in 2016, I started doing print trades and started actually, you know, tiptoeing back into the idea of selling my prints, and kind of diving back into that whole process. Towards the end of 2016, I was selling 4x6 prints at, you know, about $35 a piece. And then going into 2017, it gave me the confidence. And this is why, you know, I kind of focused talking about selling prints this morning, is because these are good gauges. You know, it's a very low entry level as a gauge to see what it is, and to test the market and see what it is that people are responding to, what it is that people are actually gravitating towards. And not that we should necessarily make work to feed people and to feed into what people are requesting or expecting from us. But at the same time, when we step into selling our work, we do need to understand what the demand of the audience is. So with that being said, going from 2016, having sold some prints, I had the confidence going into 2017 of building a zine and actually putting together a larger body of work that, you know, required some skin in the game, like I was talking about this morning, required some upfront costs where I had to pay for the zines before actually selling. And you could do pre-sales of zines to kind of offset some of the initial costs, but at the same time, there was still a lot of out-of-pocket costs. But at the same time, from selling prints in 2016 and knowing that my work was resonating with people, it gave me the confidence of knowing, hey, if I print 100 of these things, I'm pretty confident that over a course of time, whatever that time might look like, I will actually go into selling these things out. And the first zine sold out in 3 months. And then I continued pressing into selling more and more prints throughout the year, bumping my prices up more and more to where now on average, if I sell a matted like 4x6, I'm typically selling it for anywhere from $65 to $80. And I'm very, very confident of asking that for a 4x6 print like that. So, and I know people that are selling 4x6 prints for way more than that. So the price really is irrelevant. It's the fact that I started off at $10 a print back in 2016 and started snowballing it and working my way up, and challenging myself to push myself even further and sell more and more artwork. So, and then I've sold, you know, larger prints. My larger prints go anywhere from like 250 all the way up to, I've sold a print last year for a couple grand. So it kind of really ranges, but I love the idea of getting into the act of selling our prints. And you know, one of the questions that I get, and then I'll get to these questions here in a second, is, you know, how do you know, and I think we've tackled it on one of the last 2 Minute Tuesdays, but how do you know when you're ready to actually sell prints? And one of the ideas is to just put them out there. Put a couple 4x6 print sales out there and see if people are actually wanting to purchase. And if you don't make a sale the first time around, right? Stories, Instagram stories is what we were talking about this morning. They expire after 24 hours. If you didn't make a sale in that 24 hours, post it again later on and try again. Post it 2 or 3 times and just remind people, hey, reminder, I have a print sale going on this week if you want to pick one up. Still a little stuffed up from I'm still kind of on the tail end of that cold that I had a couple weeks ago, and then also allergies. Um, but one of the things that I was talking about a second ago was this idea of, quote unquote failure. It's not necessarily failure. If we treat everything within sales as kind of a petri dish, right? If we treat it all as kind of this, beaker that we're making tests, that we're more, lab professors, to where we're going in and we're actually testing things versus trying to hit a success every single time. You could actually treat it as a learning barrier or a learning platform to be able to go, okay, so people aren't responding to this. It's either one, because I'm targeting the wrong audience, or two, the audience that I am targeting wants something different. And then you could start testing other things. Do a lot of A/B tests. Put up two different prints that are drastically different and see what people gravitate towards. But the more that we treat it as a learning experience, the more that it will actually take away the sting of not making the sale. I have plenty of prints that I absolutely love, but didn't necessarily translate well into other people purchasing. And it's a good tester, really, for me to go, okay, why is it that people are resonating with this stuff and not this stuff? Is it this stuff should be going off in front of a different audience? And just questions like that. Or should I be informing the audience that I'm actually selling to and giving them the information that they might not have as to how to connect with that? So anyways, that's just a good question to ask, and a good way to start testing the waters and seeing if, one, you're ready to sell. If you put out a couple different things and you don't make any sales, don't get discouraged. Just use it as a encouragement to go, okay, I'm going to try again in a month. So I'm going to create more work that I'm passionate about in the next month, and then I'm going to put that up and see if I could get that storyline to translate well to people. So anyways, that's kind of my initial thoughts, and then we'll probably expand out on that a little bit more. But that's a little background and a little history as to kind of my selling history within photography. But then there's also years and years and years of selling fine art prints and wedding albums and stuff to wedding clients. And then there's years and years and years of other selling experience way back in the day. So I enjoy these types of conversations. I absolutely love talking about sales, because I don't think that we're supposed to be starving artists. I think that we're supposed to be passionately pursuing making our passions something that are a little bit more feasible within our lifestyle. So Darren says, I saw the video and I chose 3 images, and I'm going to put one at a time on Instagram tonight. I'd like to see how I do, as I only have a little over 100 followers. Here's a big Darren, I love that you started off with this, and I love that this is the first comment in this new thread of all these different conversations that are going on. Oftentimes we think that we have to have this giant, whatever. We start building a picture in our mind, and we start casting out, oh man, if only I had 500 followers, if only I had 1,000 followers, if only I had whatever, 100,000 followers, it would be so much easier to sell our work. But the key is, if you have 100, I guarantee you this is the case. If you have 100 dedicated individuals that are connecting with you, that you're having conversation with, that you're getting to know, that they're getting to know you, 100 people that you're getting to know and that you're building relationship will go much, much further than 15,000 people that have a very superficial and shallow relationship with you and your work. We think of 100 as being a small number, but here's the thing. If you were to be in a room with 100 people, and if you were to walk around with prints in hand and you were to say, hey, would you like to purchase this for $15? I guarantee you would get a decent amount of that 100 person audience, for lack of a better word, to purchase one of those prints. So don't think of 100 people as a small number, and then also don't think of them as only a number to sell to. It's a community. It's people that you're really trying to connect with in the first place. You're trying to give them, even if somebody doesn't buy, I still want them to walk away having an experience with my artwork, whether they purchased it or not. I want to serve them with my artwork, whether that is something that is legitimately serving them as an act of service and shooting along that, or having it be something that offers them a little bit of myself or a little bit of the world that they didn't necessarily see in the first place. So but the more that I do that, the more that I am genuinely interested in serving them, the more that they're genuinely interested in actually purchasing something that I might sell. So just a little quick little aside on the number of followers that we have. Followers, I don't necessarily like that word. Mark says, I messaged you on Insta, but yeah, I've stepped into it and have made several sales so far. Fantastic. Yes. Mark did send me a message earlier today, and he did this very thing. He actually posted up some amazing photos of the prints in their space. I think maybe a week ago. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was probably a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. And did a designated print sale. I gave him this advice. He chose 2 images. He put them up, displayed them beautifully, and then and got the sale, and it was amazing. So incredible stuff. You could go over to Mark's Instagram and check that out. Mark, if you want to link to your Instagram handle, people could see what is going on over there, because I think you actually posted them up on your Instagram feed, if I'm right. I know I seen them today, so however you did it extremely well. Jacob says, I went and cleaned up my store after I watched it. Now there's only 3 prints up. I'll probably plug the story behind them later. Yes, please do. And actually, Jacob did this very thing to where he broke down the whole behind the scenes. We were kind of discussing, and when I was out in New York staying with him, I'd given him this kind of call to action of going, look, man, he was still sitting on a handful of zines at that point. So I said, if you want to sell the rest of these things, you need to tell the story behind the zine, and it's good to tell the story over and over and over again. I can't tell you how many different times I'll look through who's seen my story on Instagram, and it's a completely different set of people depending on the day. Some people have Wednesdays off, so they're going to be the ones that are looking at your Instagram story on Wednesdays. Other people have the weekends off, so posting it up again on the weekends is fair game as well. We talked about him last week, but Kit Young, sometimes he jumps in here. So Kit, if you're in here, good seeing you. But Kit constantly posts the same. It's legitimately, he's just screenshotted the exact same call to action, and he posts it up every single time. But the thing that he does well is he shows the process behind creating the work, behind creating the prints, to where when you, sorry, my ring just hit the thing, to where when you watch his story, you're actually seeing the craft that goes into making this fine art print. And it's a beautiful thing. So Jacob actually went through and shared the behind the scenes, the craft that went into sequencing, the craft that went into formulating the concept of the zine, and sold quite a few more. He also added a deadline. I cannot tell you guys how much adding a deadline actually makes a difference in selling the work. When you add a deadline, it puts people on the spot to make a decision of purchasing your print or your zine over whatever it is that they were looking at that week. They'll give up the cup of coffee that week to purchase your zine. They'll give up, the magazine or the lens that they might purchase that will still be up there on eBay next week to purchase your fine art print or whatever it might be, because of the deadline. And that's why eBay, thinking about eBay, that's why eBay does so well, is because they give a deadline, and because things are constantly being auctioned and there's a deadline on the end of it, which is a genius business plan. Let's see here. Mark says, finding the images that people can connect with in your audience is so important. Already learning that. It's huge. It's one of those things to where I would say taking more time on the end of really thinking about the audience that you're sharing with than just putting something up just to put something up. If you are intentional on thinking about your audience and thinking about the kind of stuff that they would want hanging in their room, in their office, in their living room, whatever it might be, if you intentionally think on that, it will, 1, tell you the way that you're supposed to deliver the story, and then 2, tell you how you're supposed to present the product line to them, and then 3, how to actually sell the product line. Somebody who, think about it this way, if somebody's displaying something in their office, let's say you're selling to a lawyer or a businessman who's displaying something in his office, it's a talking point to somebody else. Chances are it's a fine art print that he wants to invest money into, or she wants to invest money into. You know, if it's displaying in in a place to where they want people to ask questions about it, there's a certain grade of people, there's a certain group of people that enjoy spending more money on it because it gives them the clout of being able to talk about how they spent so much money on this artwork. And honestly, a lot of people, and this kind of breaks outside of a majority of the market that you guys and I tend to sell to on Instagram, because it's oftentimes other photographers and people like that. But at the same time, if you start placing things in front of other people, you start thinking through, okay, what is it that they really want to brag on when their friends see this image? Is it the fact that they understand it conceptually? Is it the fact that they spent a lot of money on it? Is it the fact that it came from so-and-so and it has this name on it? What is it? And then start, I guess, playing to that, aspect, which kind of sounds a little, I don't know, sleazy, but it really isn't. One of the things as artists, if we're going to be successful artists, it's about knowing how to sell the work, whether it's selling it as a monetary value or selling it in a proposal and offering it up in a open call or in a submission that you're doing, whatever it might be, any kind of proposal. Emily needs to know how to sell her sculptures when she's applying for grants, because there's 70 to 1,000 other people applying for these grants. She needs to be able to sell them as to why her artwork matters enough for them to invest that money into it. When we're applying for open calls and in submissions, we need to deliver an artist statement and a project statement or anything like that sells the idea as to why that place should be displaying the artwork, should be displaying whatever it is, because they have all sorts of other submissions. So even if it's not selling our artwork, we still need to, like, for a monetary value, we still need to understand sales and marketing as photographers, as artists, as whatever it is, individuals. Really, it's a good life lesson to have too. Michael says, I haven't made this step yet, but I am keen to do so. I'm working on collecting images to sell, along with where to get them printed. I can't wait to put all I've learned into practice. Yes, Michael, I look forward to hearing how it all goes for you too. I still don't know how to say your name, buddy, so I'm probably gonna butcher it again. But Giacomo says, what should be the right price in terms of profit? So the thing that I would say there, that I said in the first place, was, you want to price it to a point where you're comfortable with, but then at the same time, you also want to make sure that you're, I would say a good place to start is whatever, especially if you're going through and purchasing from some place like MPix or Artifact Uprising or Adorama Pix or even Musea or the higher end print shops, or it could be a local print shop that you might have. I would say 4 times whatever it is that you invest in. So if you're doing a print and you paid $5 to get that 5x7 made and printed, then I would choose probably a $20 price range at the minimum to sell it at, because there needs to be a profit line there, because otherwise, why are you selling it? Well, yeah, I don't know. I would argue myself on that point too, because I do think that there's a place to be able to sell things at a lower profit point just to get things in people's hands. I love getting the work in people's hands, because when you do that, it's one of the things that I'm trying to think. I think it's in the book that I covered in the 5 resources video, but how to sell your art online. I think it's one of the points that was made in there is this idea that you want to have different price points that people could invest in, to where if you have an initial price point at $15 and it's easily accessible by tons of people, then that means that tons of people will get your artwork in their hands, and you become a desirable, I don't want to say commodity, but you become a desirable printmaker, because so many people are starting to get your hands on it, and people start to feel kind of left out, or there just becomes kind of a buzz about it. You know, I get tons of sales anytime I have people purchase, because then all of a sudden somebody will post up on their story on how one of the prints arrived in the mail, and they go, hey, thanks Nick, this is an amazing print, it's beautiful, go check them out. And then somebody comes over and purchases either that print or a different print or a zine or whatever it might be. Same thing goes with zines. As soon as people get it in their hands, they start sharing about it, and then all of a sudden it starts building this buzz. So I don't think that we should make our artwork, you know, unapproachable by pricing it too high. At the same time, I do think that there's times in a museum, in a gallery instance, work is supposed to be priced high. It's supposed to be valuable. That's the point of a museum, is giving value towards something. So if the value isn't posted up on the piece, people start to discount it for whatever reason. It's just kind of this high-end art weirdness that goes on. But at the same time, I hope that answers your question. I would say to start off 4 times whatever you have into the cost of the piece, and kind of go that route. Which also includes, if you're selling it as a matted and framed piece, then you also have to take into the account of the mat and the frame and start incorporating that. That's why framed artwork is so much more expensive, because frames are not cheap for whatever reason. Jonathan LeBlanc says, right on, definitely check out the video in a little bit. I'm in the process of planning my first zine right now. Fantastic, that's exciting. Let's see here, we're 30 minutes in, so I'm going to take a pause before we dive into the rest of the comments. If you're enjoying this video, go ahead and give a thumbs up, and you know, maybe even bump over onto Instagram if you're not on your computer, or if you're on your computer. Don't leave to do this, but if you're on your computer, bump over to Instagram and let people know about this this conversation, because I think that this kind of talk will really inspire a lot of people to be able to start taking that next step with their artwork. Sorry, and move in the direction of making money with their artwork, so, which is a beautiful thing. And then I also want to give a huge shout out, because we have actually a great deal of our patrons on here, but I want to give a huge shout out to our patrons on here, the patron fam. I actually just made a video for them last night and sent it over to them. The cool thing that I've been seeing over on the patron page, or the Patreon page, is the patrons aren't just supporting me, and that was what I was hoping for. Is I didn't want to have this thing to where everything revolved around me. They're actually jumping in and supporting each other. I was actually seeing a couple different stories this week to where, actually, I believe, Jonathan, you were one of the ones that was sharing up the works of other patrons. So these guys are helping to promote each other. Even they're sharing up about, you know, each other's zines and each other's prints on the stories, and really it's just become an incredible like micro community that's really actively engaged in helping each other just reach the next level. So I absolutely love that. I absolutely love just everyone that's taken that next step to help support. So if you didn't know, and I guess it wouldn't be a sales video if I didn't kind of try and sell my Patreon experience a little bit. But if you didn't know about the Patreon page, we have all sorts of different prize levels. What are they called? Rewards levels, sorry. To where you could get early access to videos, you could get print packages and early access to zines, and then there's also coaching calls. I actually have 2 different coaching clients now, Spencer Reed and then Jules, who are just incredible. These guys are amazing. Spencer and I did a call last month. We jumped on, went over our time even. I gave him extra time than what I had originally promised in the reward level, and we just had a fantastic conversation to help him push forward into his goals. So you could check all that stuff over there. I try and give as much extra value to our Patreon audience as possible, and to our patron family, and I'm constantly using the Patreon posts as like a blog, and just sharing late night thoughts and different things that I'm wrestling with, different things that are going on in my mind, and then also videos that I'm coming across that I'm finding inspirational that I think that they might enjoy as well. So that's my little plug right there. So go check out patreon.com/NickExposed, and if you join excuse me, sorry. If you join on as a patron right now during the live stream, let me know, because I'd love to give you a giant shout out as we're going through here. So the levels start off at like $3, go up to $50 for the coaching call, but there's all sorts of stuff in between there. It's super approachable, and really for giving up like a coffee a month, you can help to take the whole conversation here and the whole channel to a different level. So anyways, sales call is done. Let's get back to helping you guys make more sales. Let's see here. Michael says Thomas Heaton did a breakdown of how he charges for a print. Now he sells a lot more than we will, but it provides insight into what things we can consider when pricing. Oh, I absolutely love that. Thomas Heaton. I'm going to have to check that out as well. Actually, I'm going to screenshot this. Whoops. There we go. So thank you, Michael. I'm going to check that out. Said I found that video useful. There was things that I hadn't considered, like packaging costs and insurance costs if an image would be damaged in transit. Yes, that's a good thing to keep in mind as well. It's one of those things with zines, you know. I still want to do a zine like cost breakdown where you have to consider the idea of all the packaging and the shipping and everything into the initial cost when you're charging people. You know, if I get a zine printed for $1.50 a piece, that doesn't mean that my only cost going into it is $1.50. I put them all in these cellophane sleeves, and then they have cardboard backings, and then they have other protection material that goes in, and then the shipping packaging and all that kind of stuff. So Michael, you made a great point that I didn't think to cover a second ago, so thank you. Alan Tobin says, and which, by the way, Alan is our week's like patron feature. I featured him over on the Instagram account, but go check him out. He's doing great work over there. He does beautiful landscape stuff, both digital and film, but he's really diving into a lot of 6x7, I believe, film landscape stuff. So that's amazing. Sean says, I need to start trying to sell prints, trying to get a show together to gauge interest. Nice. Yes, do that. What kind of show are you gonna do? I'm curious to hear. I always love hearing about exhibition shows and gallery showings, and even if it's and I don't say this to downplay it, but even if it's in a coffee shop, I absolutely, we talked about it time and time again. Excuse me. I absolutely love. I don't know if you guys can hear the loud car outside. But I absolutely love hearing when people are showing in coffee shops, because they just make such a great space to show. Michael says, Alan, it's something called selling prints. He added like 70%, but it's good to hear how Nick approaches it. Nice. I love it. All right. Mark shared his Instagram handle. I do suggest you guys go over. Mark was a great kind of, I guess, case study of this conversation. He started it last week, and he posted up over on his feed and his story, and had great success. So go over and check out how he approached it, how he took the photos of it in his space. He put them in frames, he put them up on the bookshelf, and displayed them in a space that most people would actually display it in. And I just think that that's absolutely fantastic. So go check him out. It's Mark William Holmes over on Instagram, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy what you see over there. And maybe even purchase one of his prints while you're over there, because he's an amazing guy. Anna, what's up? Good seeing you out there. Anna, I think that you, Garth, and Jahan, and Jacob probably have the most amount of highs that people get. Like, this sounds really weird. When you guys jump onto the live stream, people just freak out and go crazy to say hi to you guys. Also, if you guys didn't know, I do want to take a second, because Hannah has been such a supporter, an amazing supporter of the channel. She's been in every single conversation that we have as a community. You guys know her. You guys, like, it's great having her in on the conversations. She's doing a print sale right now to help, like, fund a dream project of hers. She's putting together a gallery exhibition for, I think, September, for this fall. It's either August or September, but it's coming up soon, and she won't be able to do the gallery exhibition if she can't actually fund it. So she's selling all of her prints to help to fund that. So go over and check her out over on Instagram, or shoot her a direct message, whatever it is, but reach out to her because she has some beautiful, beautiful prints. I should pull it out and show it at some point, but Hannah sent me a print, I believe last year, and it was gorgeous. It was framed, or not framed, but matted, and the print quality was absolutely stunning. It's one of my favorite prints in my collection, so you guys need to go over and check her out. Yeah, Hannah, I hope you actually get to do the exhibition that you've been dreaming about. And if you guys didn't know, Hannah doesn't get out to shoot as often as she would like, so every single time she gets out to shoot, it's an absolutely cherished moment for her. So the work is just so charged with just passion and in anticipation, because she's been anticipating shooting this work for months and months and months and years on end. And then when she actually gets to go out there and create work, she creates a beautiful body of work. So go check her out and give her some support, because she's been a huge piece of this community. So thank you, Hannah. Jacob says, I'm doing all right. I hope your exhibition is going well. Hey, talking about the exhibition. Jan says, good evening, photo people. How are you doing? We're doing great. Good to see you out there. Hannah says, it's been tough to get out, to be honest, Jacob, with everything I have going on. So that's been a bit of a sticking point for me. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Jeffrey, you said it doesn't necessarily mean that. I don't know what that was in reference to. And also, good seeing you on here. Actually, now that you've jumped on and now that I see you in here, we could actually, Jeffrey sent over a question earlier that I would like to go into right now. He says, in your experience, do people care about signed prints? And then he expanded on it a little bit more. He said, or maybe at what point do signed prints matter? Up to a certain level, they don't necessarily add value, but instead provide a tangible connection to the maker. So I would say I started off from the get-go signing my prints, just because it's one of those things to where I feel like there's a point of, if you think of a signature collection of anything, right? The signature collection is like, I don't know, you think about wine. There's wine, and then there's the maker's collection, or the signature collection, to where it's going, I am super proud of this wine that I'm putting out. That's what the vineyard is saying. They're saying all the other stuff is good, but this is the thing that I'm actually proud to put out there, and I'm excited to put out there. And I wanted to feel that with my prints. So when I go through and I'm making prints, I'm very detail oriented about the prints, and I want to make sure that I'm putting good stuff out there. So for me, it's not necessarily first and foremost what other people are thinking as far as the signature. It's me going, I feel that this is a thing that I'm proud to put out there into the world, that I'm proud to put into somebody's hands, and I'm excited to actually have someone experience. So that's where I sign it. That's the signature print for me, is going, this is good enough to meet my standards and to go out the door. I don't put other stuff out the door. It's one of those things to where, for me, it's a sign of going, look, I've seen this, I've put my hands on it, and I've signed it and put it in your hands. As far as the initial question, in your experience, do people care about signed prints? I do think so. I did have it to where I forgot to sign 2 darkroom prints that I had sent out to someone. And they messaged me and they said, hey, you didn't sign these. And there was almost this expectation that they would come in signed, especially when I'm referring to the stuff as fine art prints. I think that there is a certain level of expectation that comes with that, where people go, okay, this is a fine art print, it's going to be signed. And then sometimes there's even more expectation. We talked about it last week, to where galleries and collectors really do find that limited edition runs are much more desirable and valuable, and they hold a little bit more clout with these kind of collectors, these kind of galleries, to where they want you to sign it, they want you to number it. Whereas I don't always get into the aspect of numbering my prints. I do go into the aspect of signing every single one of my prints, unless it happens to escape my mind, which on occasion things do happen like that. So, and then at what point do signed prints matter? Again, I think that that's kind of to me, it matters right at the starting point, because I do want to have a good product that I'm putting in people's hands. It's the whole reason why this isn't one of my my film camera on here, but this isn't one of my t-shirts. But one of the reasons why you guys haven't heard about Two Stops Apparel in quite some time is because the not factory, but the place that was printing the work or printing the t-shirts and putting them out there was making mistake after mistake after mistake. So I just recently switched over to an entirely different print shop out in California, and I'm super excited to be partnered with these guys. Actually, Leo, one of the Leo Martinez, is part of the community here. He's one of the owners over at this place, and he's the one who reached out to me. He watches the channel. He's part of the community. He's seen the 2 Minute Tuesdays. He's seen the other talks. He's been in on the conversations. He knows the culture, and he wants to partner with us in bringing the utmost quality of products into you guys' hands. So I'm actually going to be doing a full relaunch of Two Stops Apparel. It's kind of in a partial, like, I don't know, in a weird launch space right now, to where I'm kind of in a soft launch, working out all the rest of the kinks before we actually go live. It is live right now. If you go over and purchase a t-shirt, it will go through, and it will go through Leo's shop. You will get an amazing product line, but there's still some quirks on my website that I'm trying to work out. But anyways, it's one of those things to where no matter what, if I'm putting a product out into someone's hands, I want to be able to meet that person face to face at some point and look them in the eye and know confidently that I put something that I would want to receive myself and get myself in my hands, that I put that in their hands, you know? So that's why signing things matters to me, at least. I think that there's probably a lot of different thought processes on this, but when I sign a mat, when I sign a print, whatever it might be, you know, I just think that there's a value there that I'm sticking on to it, of saying, look, I approve this. I'm Nick Mayo, and I approve this message, and it goes out. So anyways, which, by the way, Jeffrey, thanks for sending that over. Giacomo, I don't, I'm terrible with the little, like, enunciation things. I'm not good with language. I'm sorry. So if I ever butcher anybody's name out there, the best way to get me to say it right is to take a little video of yourself saying it, or it could be a video of the wall with you saying it in the background, but send that over to me on Instagram, because I don't like butchering people's names. So give me the pronunciation that way. Jacob says these roadblocks will constantly keep you down mentally and physically fighting it. I know you'll come out of it. I started reading that with a lot of gusto, and then I realized that he was responding to Hannah, so I think I probably put a little bit more emphasis on a wrong part of that. Anyways, Jeffrey says there's no love in the middle. Either sell low and go for volume, or go high to establish value. I do think that that's a really good point. So that's where, you know, not to overly talk about zines and stuff like that, but at the same time, it's a big focus of the channel because of this very thing. Is and I think it was last week's or maybe 2 weeks ago that I gave this giant case for making zines on the 2 Minute Tuesday live. But it's this idea that zines are printed and sold at such an approachable value, to where you could either sell 4x6 prints or zine at a very fair price. And then I don't sell, apart from like fine art black and white, like prints made on 8x10 paper, which I do sell for a little bit higher price point compared to the 4x6 prints. I don't sell anything in between. It's either I'm selling small and giving people that kind of value to where they can approach it at a very, very low price, or I'm selling larger and it's much more, you know, everything that I sell at a higher level is matted and definitely signed and oftentimes numbered. And I like to sell it in frame if I can, and kind of approaching things in that way, to where it's much more on the multi-$100 or multi-$1,000 price point. And yeah, the gap in between is only for print sales. You know, I might do a print sale of 8x10s, you know, for 80 bucks or 90 bucks or something like that. So that's a good point, Jeffrey. I appreciate that. Mark says, Jeffrey, it sounds like you've been burned by going in the middle. Why do you think there's no love in the middle? Yeah, I'd be curious to hear that as well. Jan says, I just signed up to Adorama and plan on putting a few prints in the morning. Nice. Very good. Let's see here. And, you know, I would suggest going through, you know, I talked about MPix, I talked about Adorama Pix. I would suggest getting a print or a couple prints made and having them come to you first. You know, make sure that the way that you're sending files over is translating well with the way that they're printing stuff. Don't just, you know, willy-nilly have stuff go off. Or, you know, you could also have it come in and then sign it. You know, if it meets your standard. The nice thing about MPix or Adorama is that if it doesn't meet your standard, chances are they'll actually reprint it to try and meet your specs and go, hey, this was way too magenta, and they'll reprint it to kind of fix the whole printing problem. But a big thing is getting it in your hands and being able to double check. You know, product control is a big thing, and being able to sign it once again and give you that signature opportunity. So, but yeah, let me know how it goes for you. Jacob says, no problem, Hannah. I've got to go, everyone. Have a good live stream, Nick. Thank you so much. Good seeing you in here. Dylan O'Connor says, I'm out shopping, got to dip out, but I look forward to reading the discussion later on. My art market is getting closer, and I'm getting more and more excited with these videos coming out. Very good. I hope that these help and serve you well. I actually signed up and will hopefully be doing an artist market later on this fall as well. It's been an artist market that Emily and I have gone to every year for the last 3 years, and I finally took the plunge of you know, applying for a vendor booth. So hopefully we get that. That'll be the first artist market that I do. And I think that I could probably have some really good success there. So Sean says, probably won't get to this comment for a bit, but my local pub hangs work and I want to do a landscape series there. Very nice. That'd be fun. Again, a local pub, a local coffee shop, these are places to where people spend a great amount of time at. And it's a great place to have your work, especially pubs and coffee shops, because people will frequent them. You know, if you're doing a month's exhibition, chances are a lot of people will go there at least once each week during that month. So it gives you more of this frequency to where a lot of the times people will see things 4, 5, 6. Oftentimes the industry standard is 7 times. That may have changed since my sales days, but they'll see things 7 times before they actually pull the trigger to purchase. So getting it into a space where people see things over and over and over again allows them to wrestle with it and go, do I really want to purchase this? They can sleep on it, get back out there the next day, they see it again, fall back in love with it again. But then it's also a great way of just getting it in front of tons of eyes. So absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing. Mark says, I do have prints still available. Fantastic. Yes, go over and check that out. Jeffrey says, Mark, just as a way to distinguish value, you can put higher cost on an item of sale, also using lower priced items to act as an intro to your work. Yes, I completely agree. Michael says, yes, Hannah, she's a boss. She did a feature on your exhibition about how she approaches photography. Yes, guys, go check out your exhibition. So Michael reached out to me probably a couple weeks ago, Michael. I can't remember quite what it was. I think it was maybe the week before I went out to New York. It was something like that, or it was the week that I was sick, or I don't know. But one of the things was Michael was talking about how he just has this innate desire to just serve the community, and we were kind of wrestling through what that might look like. And the thing that he came up with was at your _ exhibition, to where he's just doing like mini exhibitions online of people, showcasing them, doing interviews with them, but really highlighting and showcasing their work, highlighting and showcasing what they are doing for the industry, for the community, for everything like that. So go check it out. And then Hannah was actually his first feature over there. So I highly suggest going and checking that out. And I actually have to apologize, Michael, because I started reading that article and then I totally got sidetracked. I told you about that, but I never went back and read it. So if you could send me a message over on Instagram to remind me, I'd love to go back over and read that and get caught back up on the other articles that you've done as well. Let's see here. Wow. Anna says, thank you so much, Nick. You literally just brought tears to my eyes. Thank you for the support. Now you're bringing tears to my eyes. I'm glad to help, and I hope it really seriously helps you get closer to your goal, because you deserve it. Sean says, Jeffrey Sidoris, off topic, but just discovered your podcast. Great series. Yes. If you guys haven't seen Jeffrey's, if you haven't heard Jeffrey's different podcast, there's On Taking Pictures that he does with Bill Wadman. But then there's also Process Driven, which we did a conversation over there, which was by far still to date my favorite conversation that I've had on a podcast interview. Jeffrey is a fantastic, fantastic conversationalist. Jeffrey, I haven't said this to you. I was actually going to make you a little mini video and send it over to you, just because after I listened to your most recent one this week, I'm constantly blown away by your interview capabilities, and really it goes beyond just interviews, just your conversational capabilities. I would put you on the level of Tim Ferriss. I would put you on the level of Abarian X. I would put you on the level of all these greats within the industry of interviews. And I've said this so many times. I've already said it on the episodes in the past, but I really truly believe that process driven, in even iterations, if you keep that going on, but process driven specifically, is going to soar to whole new heights and really bring great value to the rest of the community. So thank you for doing that. And if you guys haven't seen that, heard it, go check it out. Like, literally, I wouldn't even be offended if you jumped off the podcast right now to go check, or jumped off the live stream right now to go check that out as a podcast. Also, real quick side note is, do you guys think that there would be any value in ripping the audio off of these 2 Minute Tuesday live streams and then putting it over as a podcast conversation over there? I don't know. I know a lot of people can listen to this as kind of a audio stream, and I know a lot of people put it on in the background and listen to it as a background thing anyways. So if you guys think that would be of any value of kind of ripping this off and putting it over on iTunes or anything like that, let me know, because it's been kind of something that I'm mulling over. And then in a second, I also want to throw out some other ideas about 2 Minute Tuesday, because I'm kind of wrestling with changing things up about it, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts. But let's see here. Jeffrey says, new episode up tonight or tomorrow. Fantastic. I'm excited to hear it. Cezanne didn't sign much of his work. Oh, okay. I got you. This is... it doesn't necessarily mean that. I got you. That's what you were saying. And again, this is one of those things to where Jeffrey and I were actually having a conversation off air just probably an hour or so ago. But one of the things is Jeffrey signs the back of his paintings, and I was asking him why, and I totally respect the idea to where he wants his work to stand on its own. He wants his work to be able to speak for itself, and even more so, we were talking about like a visual signature. When you see a Cezanne, you know it's a Cezanne. When you see, this is the... I putting words in Jeffrey's mouth right now, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the thing that Jeffrey's really aiming for, is going, if you see a Jeffrey Sidoris, you know it's a Jeffrey Sidoris. And I think that there's great value to that in not having to sign work. But for me personally, that's kind of my stance on it. For me personally, it makes it more of a signature, like I'm putting my stamp of approval on it before sending it out. I know that that's not a absolute across the board for artists. There's plenty of artists who don't sign their work. There's plenty of artists who obnoxiously sign their work. So it kind of goes across the board, and there's really no right or wrong answer. That's the beautiful thing about art, is you could... just the fact that you might do things different than someone else is an artistic expression in the first place. And the thing that I love is I have a mat right here, but there's actually a piece that goes with this mat, but I haven't officially actually gotten the framing. Let me move my thing here to make sure that this my signature here is not even like a signature of my name. It's more of an artistic free-flowing expression. So it's one of these things to where I'm not signing things with my name necessarily. I'm kind of giving... it's almost like a stamp of approval. It's a very specific signature that kind of developed over time, but I love it because it's one of the things it's a conversational point too that people do bring up, and maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe that shouldn't be the issue of conversation when someone's looking at my piece. But it's kind of on the afterthought. We always talk about the piece first, and then they go, "That's your signature." Anyways, I digress. Let's see here. Sean says, "Got to run. Have a great week." See you, buddy. Good seeing you. Alan says, "Well, I've been inspired. I'm going to sell prints." Fantastic. I'm excited to hear that. Michael says, "Thanks, Nick. We have Jules coming tomorrow, which will be great." That will be fantastic. So somewhere up here, I still have, there's a new episode going up tomorrow about zines within the community. It's one of the zine feature series, and I'm going to be doing more of these moving forward. I have 4 more zines selected, and then I have 2 more that are ready for the pile after that. So I'm going to add I'll probably do 4 every single time, unless there's a smaller project or a bigger project that requires less or more talking on. But Jules is actually one of the featured artists tomorrow, and then Jules is also one of our patrons, and is at the coaching call level, to where he and I are going to be doing some coaching calls to help him move forward on some of his zines, but then also some exhibition stuff that he's doing. So Jules is amazing. He's normally in these conversations, but I think he's traveling Paris right now, making a new body of work, which is really exciting. Chris says, "Nice, you're still going, still able to catch the last couple of minutes before bed." Yes, well, welcome. Ellen says, "I don't think it would work as an audio podcast, Nick." Or I do think, okay. I was like, well, thank you for being honest. But he says, "I do think that it would work as an audio podcast." Michael says, "TMT as a podcast would be brilliant to re-listen to. Definitely rate that idea. I'd love for the 2-Minute Tuesday to be a podcast as well." Fantastic. That'd be amazing too, because we have so many backlogs on 2-Minute Tuesdays that I could really dive into putting those in, and I might even go in and kind of hone the audio down a little bit better to make it kind of flow a little bit more, so then it's easy to have a choppy kind of flow as I'm reading comments and as I'm fielding comments and different things like that. When you have a video representation, when you're watching me read comments or something. But over on audio, it might take a little bit of tuning in and honing in on, but I think it could be done. So thank you guys for the input on that. And actually, I do want to switch gears over, and we could jump back in. So if you guys have any continued questions on this topic, I'd love to continue diving into this. And I also want to say right now, I don't share any of this. I think that this plays off of Jeffrey and my conversation a second ago. Is there's all sorts of different ways to approach this stuff. I'm not claiming to be the ultimate authority, or really even an authority figure on this matter at all. I'm not a master on this matter. I have made a great deal of side income on this stuff. So I'm literally just sharing what it is that I've known to be true within my own selling, within my own successes as an artist, or what I've seen other people have successes on, and just trying to hand you the tools that I've gotten and the things that I've done to sell my work. But by no means am I saying that the stuff that I'm sharing is the only way to go about any of this. So I hope that translates over, and I know that you guys know me. I know that you guys know my heart on this matter, and you guys know that I'm not some cocky, prideful dude that thinks that I know everything on this. So because I don't, and I would be humbled, very humbled in the I would be humbled, not I am humbled. But anyways. I digress again. About the 2-Minute Tuesday. So this is the thing I want to throw out there. Our 2-Minute Tuesdays, we've been diving into more and more topics, and especially with going into these mini series within this, I love the platform of delivering content in the morning and then diving into it on Tuesday afternoon. And I want to continue that platform. At the same time, we've moved far beyond the 2-minute idea. It's a bite size still. I try and keep them. It's kind of grown, and I'm putting a stake in the sand where 15 minutes is really I try and shoot for under 15 minutes. If I can, I try and do it under 10 minutes. I don't want to necessarily move it to a 10-minute Tuesday or anything like that, but I kind of feel like once the season 2 of 2-Minute Tuesday is done, of rebranding this thing and kind of giving it maybe even a fresh outlook on where we're heading with things. Maybe we take where each season is really honed in on a certain thing. Maybe we go, hey, this season is how you get discovered within your artwork. This season is about compositional elements, or this season could be whatever it might be, but still sticking to the bite-sized bit in the morning and then diving into it as a community in the evening. I love that aspect. I'm just really, really wrestling with the idea of 2-Minute Tuesday, and I also want to kind of shake things up a little bit to kind of rebrand some of the things on the channel and kind of give some fresh appeal for, you know, I have a lot of you guys that tune in every single week, and you know, there's a loyal community that I absolutely love, and we have a family conversation every single week. We have these coffee conversations, we have these fireside chats, if you will. But at the same time, I think that there's some people that when they think of 2-Minute Tuesday, they think of a very specific thing. And I kind of want to move away from that, maybe to kind of refreshen this idea and pull some people that we may have lost along the way back into the conversation, because I do think that we can have more voices within our conversations that we have here. We can have more voices, you know, within these discussions. So with that being said, I would love to hear what you guys think. Are you guys, you know, far too invested into the 2-Minute Tuesday idea to see it move on? And at the same time, I've been trying to, because I do enjoy it. I say it every single week. Hey, another 2-Minute Tuesday. On this 2-Minute Tuesday episode, we're going to go into this. Like, it's become such a part of my language, a part of the culture here. But at the same time, we're, you know, a little over a year into the channel. We're second season into this whole thing. And I think that now versus getting into season 4 or 5 or something like that, now would be the time to make that shift and to open up the idea to where people aren't, not that anybody's offended that it's not 2 minutes. But at the same time, I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts vomited out to you guys. So I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts on all this. Jared says, hey, Nick, I love all your videos. Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing your ideas and knowledge. Hey, you're welcome. And I appreciate that. You know, I like I said a second ago, I don't claim to be any kind of expert, but at the same time, I want to be as vulnerable as possible and share my successes and my failures with you guys, and just kind of let you know what has worked or hasn't worked, or the different side shifts that I've had to make or anything like that. And I just want to be kind of this, I don't know, petri dish almost, again, for lack of better terms. I think it's because I was watching some Tim Ferriss podcast stuff earlier today, to where, you know, Tim Ferriss has always kind of considered himself as a human guinea pig to be able to, or a lab rat in these kind of things, to where people could learn from. He's the petri dish, and all these different, you know, medical expressions that he uses. So that's probably why my mind gravitates towards that stuff. Let's see here. Michael says, I don't think you've covered this, but but apologies if you have. When you send a print, what do you include? Do you ever include frames or notes with them, package board, or anything? Would love to know. Yeah. So, you know, if it's that's a really good question. If it's just a standard print, so let's say it's a 4x6 print that I have on hand. If it's a 4x6 print, I put it into a cellophane sleeve. You could buy these if you're in the States. You could buy them at Hobby Lobby sells them. They only ever stock, all the Hobby Lobbies around here at least, only ever stock 2 packages at once, and sometimes they only stock 1 package at once, and you get, I think, 25 or 50 cellophane sleeves within the package. But so I cellophane sleeve it. I put a backing board in the cellophane sleeve. I use acid-free paper to make sure that it doesn't contaminate the print, and then I put that into a shipping box. So this here, on some occasion, and actually you can see a little bit of what I'm talking about here. Here. I'm the most unorganized person, if you guys hadn't noticed that. Emily's taken off this weekend for a 2-week artist residency, and one of my goals in my time home alone and having to keep myself busy is cleaning my office and trying to organize it as best as possible. But let me move this over to the side here. So you can kind of see here. So this is a cellophane sleeve. This is my first copy, or my first edition of the first zine. But I put it into a cellophane sleeve. I put a acid-free backing board in there, so that kind of makes this rigid, not crazy rigid. But then within this, so this first one I sent out, and I do this with a lot of 8x10 prints, is I'll get one of these cardboard mailers. This one made it all over the world and then came back to me. But I'll find one of those cardboard mailers, and I'll put extra packaging in there as well. So I have a lot of chipboard or cardboard that I'll package with, and just to make it as rigid as possible, because USPS, if they can bend it, they will bend it. It's I think that they have a mantra, or like this ethic code, that like if a package can be bent, they will bend it. So I hit it with a do not bend stamp as often as possible, and I'll cover the entire thing with like do not bend, do not bend. But I try and make it as impossible for them to bend as possible. The I had one over here a minute ago, but I don't know what I did with the zine. I swear I just had one here. The smaller zine is a little bit more flexible, and it's not the way that they would bend it wouldn't be the way that would destroy it. So I packaged that a little bit different, to where I put, again, backing paper or backing board in it. I put 2 sheets of backing board in it. But yeah, I just take a rigid material of whatever it is that you either have lying around or whatever it is that you could purchase. And then also, if you're doing 8x10 prints or anything less, if you go to the post office, they'll often have print mailers, or you can order them on Amazon. And what it is it's a standard envelope, and then it has 2 cardboard sleeves in it, and then all over the package it says photo do not bend. So that tends to be what it is that I send with it. Depending on the position that I'm in my schedule, sometimes I'll write handwritten notes, and I'll stick those in. Other times I'll take maybe a test print or something, or a print that doesn't quite make the cut, and I'll write on the back of it and write a note, and it's kind of a little added bonus that goes in there. I've done all sorts of different things as far as like including stuff. Sometimes I'll put in some of the stickers, stay broke, shoot film, or something like that, and I'll add those in as little bonuses. So I like to go above and beyond. One of the things, actually, Jason Brewer texted me earlier today, and he was telling me you should make a video about actually packaging things well, but then also actually shipping things out in a timely manner, probably from personal experience of delivering or receiving stuff, or receiving things months after somebody promised, which I myself am bad on at some point in time. Like, there's been times where I've forgotten to send things out just because of all the things that I'm juggling. At the same time, I would highly suggest being very diligent on sending things out, very diligent on packaging things well, both with prints and with when you ship out cameras. I have a whole slew of stories that I could talk about where I received cameras in packages that made me cry. So I won't go into that. But anyways, yeah, so that's kind of my, I don't know, I'll probably make a video, maybe a series, or at least a video kind of covering multiple different ways that I'll ship things out, because it tends to change as to whatever I have laying around, or whatever it is that I'm trying to do with the packaging at the moment. So eventually I do want to hone down into a very specific and a very marketed and branded packaging solution. But as of right now, I kind of ebb and flow with the whole packaging game. Jared says, I did notice that in a lot of the vids, you use the term guys and tend to lean towards masculine words when talking about photographers. I think it would be cool if you use more nerd. I can't even talk. Use more neutral terms or pronouns, and encourage more females to shoot, as well as acknowledge all the women who are out there and making great images. I appreciate you bringing that up. When I use the term guys, it's not specifically like using the term guys, it's you guys, as in you people. It makes it a little bit more enticing versus saying you people. I am very, very intentional on saying, if I do say, I said it earlier when I was saying, you know, if you're talking to and trying to sell to a lawyer, if he or she puts it up. So I do try and make sure that I'm addressing both. But at the same time, I would say that 95%, when I look at my analytics, 95% of my analytics is guys. So I do know that I am addressing a lot of guys. So I'll keep it in mind. But realize when I use the term guys, it's not necessarily the gender term of guys. It's the group term of guys. So I apologize if that offends anybody. I'll be intentional about thinking about my usage of words moving forward. Jeffrey says, "Don't be afraid to let it evolve. Sometimes you just need to stop doing the show." Yes. Yes, and yeah, making side shifts and stopping doing things isn't necessarily a bad thing, you know. Making an evolution of it, like Jeffrey is saying, and allowing things to tack into a different direction can be one of the biggest and most beneficial things to growth and to keeping things fresh. Not that I feel like the 2-Minute Tuesdays are necessarily stale. It's just one of these things to where I do think that it may be time for attack. So, Jeffrey, thank you for your input there. 6 years is long enough. I'm not gonna go there right now with you. Oh, I love the 2-Minute Tuesdays, but if you feel like a change is needed, any sort of rebrand, then I'd totally be behind that in every way. And love the ideas you have to evolve the channel. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's going to be a lot of the same thing, but I think it will give us a little bit more flexibility to where I don't necessarily think that we have to, you know, keep it so low on the timeline, but bring on the 10-Minute Tuesdays. Thank you. Anyways, but yeah, so it'll be a lot of the same thing, but I don't know. I kind of want to take some of the restrictors off of it and allow it to become what it's supposed to become. Because I think that this is one of the most important and powerful things that we've done on the channel so far. I enjoy the tutorial videos. I enjoy the dedicated videos, like the conversation video, like the Miles Davis video, like some of the videos that I have planned coming up, but the creative depression and the creative struggle videos, those are important as well. But I honestly believe that this very thing that we're doing right now, having a conversation about topics and really like diving in deep, I love giving a single topic for us to really hone in on. I think it's one of the greatest things that we could do as a community. It allows us to, you know, as they say, as a rising tide raises all ships, you know, it allows us to all kind of rise at a somewhat similar pace to where we can challenge each other. We can throw out concepts that might be a little less friendly for some people to approach. Some people, I've had no comments on the videos, but I've had some people reach out and just share some thoughts on the direction of the selling series, and I can understand what they're saying, but at the same time, nobody else is really talking about this stuff, and it's a no wonder as to why so many artists refer to themselves as starving artists when the issue of selling our artwork becomes such a, you know, taboo subject, you know, when it becomes this elephant in the room, whereas it should be commonality for us to talk about this thing. So many of us want to passionately pursue photography. We want to passionately pursue creating our artwork and actually making at least a side income, or if not a living, selling our artwork or making work. And if we aren't having these conversations, if we aren't diving in deep with these things as a community, then we're just going to be where we've always been. And where we've always been is the things that leave us in these creative depressions, in these creative ruts, in these places of complacency. So I don't think it should be something that's reserved for the few and far between. I think that it's something that we could really hone in on and really all share our resources, because honestly, it's not a competition between each other. Especially with selling prints, I enjoy it in like having as many possible prints as I can. I love having Kit's prints over here, and then this print up here that I forget the artist. I found this in a thrift store or a antique store. I have Kit's print over here. I have Cameron's print over here. You know, there's a bunch of prints up on my wall over here. 2 prints right here by Jonathan. Can't think of his last name. He works over at Indie Film Lab. But anyways, it's not a competition. I love having as many prints as I possibly can. I have over 50 zines down here. I do want to get an official count of these. I think I have over 50. I'm pretty sure my count was close to that before I got tons of other ones. So, but I have all these different zines to where it's not a competition. We need to stop treating it like that and start sharing resources and helping to push each other along. Because I find that the more I encourage others, the more I pull other people up to the successes that I've had, the more success I have in the long run. So let's see here. Hannah says, gotta love Tim Ferriss's podcast. He does an amazing job. Ellen says, I'll always say guys, but I agree to the second part of Jared's point on the low number of women in film photography or in the film community. Max on Analog Insights gave a call to arms to women on his YouTube recently. I'm gonna have to check that out. I love Max. He's an amazing friend. Awesome dude. I would call him a friend. I think that he would call me a friend. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. Sometimes I realize I throw out these ideas to where, like, I respect people and I have conversations with them, but I don't necessarily know that people always consider me the same way that I consider them. Azrael Knight reached out to me at one point because I said that he was a friend, and he got upset at me for that, which I understand. Like, in his terminology, I understand, but yeah. Anyways. Some people don't consider friendship to be a thing that is easily gained, but I digress again. Alan says he actually got the male to female stats up on screen and they were striking. They really are. I can't tell you, like, if I look at my Instagram, if I look at my Facebook analytics, if I look at my YouTube analytics, it really is striking as to how many men are watching and subscribing compared to women. And I don't know, I've had people ask questions on that and I don't necessarily have the answer. And to be honest with you, because I don't have the answer right now, I don't know how to speak to it. I love encouraging women photographers. I just gave a huge shout out to Hannah. We have other women photographers that, Lindsay, who comes to the meetups, and Fee, who is also another YouTuber, and these different people that I try and encourage, that I try to, share and push them out into other streams. That way people could be familiar with them. There's women in all format now, but at the same time, I don't necessarily know how to find women photographers. And it's also something that I shouldn't feel bad about saying this, that I'm not necessarily passionate about, really going out and discovering other women photographers, because it's just not a thing that I do within my marriage. I don't sit down and talk to women. It's something that, I just don't do, to guard my marriage, to guard, like the different areas of my life. And it's just going, I don't necessarily know that I'm the proper person to start reaching out and trying to be an advocate of change, apart from saying I love it when I find women photographers that are doing great work, and I try to encourage them and uplift them and, partner with them as best as I can from the channel's position or from sharing their work on Instagram position or anything like that. But it's just not something that I'm going to do, to actively start seeking out women photographers, just because I don't actively seek out women. It's a weird thing to say. Let's see here. Ellen says, bring on. Okay, I already read that. Yes. Hannah says, I always say guys to address both male and female. I do think that is kind of a commonality. Maybe it's a cultural thing, but yeah, I don't know. I appreciate you bringing it up. I forget who brought it up, but I do appreciate you bringing it up. It's just, Alex, what's up, buddy? Good seeing you out there. I did get your email. Alex and I are going to be collaborating on a pretty special project coming up. So I got your email. I'm going to be responding to that this week. Michael says, I have to go, team. Thanks for the awesome discussion, all, and thanks, Nick, for once again sharing your process and encouraging us. I'll message you sometime tomorrow. Thank you so much, and we'll see you later. Jeffrey says womeninphotography.info is a website that we could check out for women in photography. Yes. And, Jeffrey, I got to say, I got to give it to you and Bill for being extremely, extremely active in trying to, so on taking pictures. They've go back and listen to the past, episodes. They've been actively over the last year, I would say, it's kind of what I remember the conversations being, actively looking for women to feature on their weekly photographer of the week, their weekly photographer of the week, but their photographer of the week. Yeah, kudos to you guys for doing that. And then also, I'm sure, Jeffrey, you're probably working on bringing on more women to your podcast, and I'm really excited to see that and hear conversations with other women photographers and different things like that. Justin says, side note, I know for a fact that the analytics are wrong, as even my female relatives alone who I know watch are enough to shift the demographic, but they don't show up in the charts. Interesting. Kit says, by the way, hey, good seeing you out there. Kit says it's a male-dominated culture in photography in general. Though I have to say, my nose itches. I'm sorry, guys. I keep itching it. I have to say that it also depends on what part of the photography community that you're speaking to. Yeah, I mean, there's, I think of the mom photographers. There's tons and tons of, not to generalize, but there's a ton of mom photographers out there who are cataloging their everyday lives and doing a fantastic just job with it. I mean, there's Photo Moms, which I think it's Photo Moms, but it's this entire apparel line and movement that are dedicated towards mothers who are just photographing their daily life as a mom and their kids and stuff like that. And I absolutely love seeing that kind of stuff. Wedding photography tends to attract more female photographers. I completely agree. So it's just one of those things to where it's, yeah, I don't know. I always feel like kind of getting trapped into this conversation because I don't know what to say on it. I don't know how to necessarily go about changing it. So I don't know that I have too much of a voice to give on it, and it's also not a strength of mine. It's not a giant, yeah, I don't know. I have other things that I could bring to the community, and it's not me saying, oh, I'm gonna, I'm a chauvinist pig or something like that. No, I love it when I see other, women creating great work. Just, yeah, again, it's nothing that, oh, you're not Kit? You're Kit. I wish I was as good as Kit. Wait a second. Is it Katie? I don't know. Anyways, sorry if you really aren't Kit. Then I'm sorry. Justin, Kyle. Okay. Well, oh, Kyle Ting. Duh. Okay, yes, I remember you jumped on last week. You just made it. Emily's texting me. She's asking me what's going on up here. Did you need my help? Emily, I think Emily's listening to our conversation. She's a creeper downstairs. Let's see here. Alan says, super stream tonight. I'm off to sleep. Night all. See you, buddy. But yes, Kyle. Good seeing you on here. Spencer says, do you believe that people can become masters of photography in this day and age? Yes, I still think that, I don't think that master is a word that is lost. I think that, here's the thing, and actually Spencer and I were talking about this, and this will be the last question that I take today, because I'm going to jump off here. Emily and I have some plans for the podcast that we're working on for tonight, and also dinner, and my stomach's starting to growl. But Spencer and I were kind of talking about this earlier this week, but here's the thing that I would say about the idea of master, and I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. So if you come back to the live stream later on and leave it in the comments in the replay later on, I would love to hear it. But it's the idea that within photography, it's it's become much more easily accessible to make a good photo, even a great photo, uh, in this day and age. I mean, people can make fantastic photos with the easiest of equipment, right? With an iPhone, you can make a fantastic photo. Um, it's one of these things to where the barrier to entry has been diminished quite a bit, which I think is a beautiful thing. We're seeing more just incredible photos than we've actually seen in the course of history as just a good, great, incredible photo standpoint is. But the idea of becoming a master is taking it beyond that. It's not just being able to make a good photo. I think it's a partnering of being able to make a great photo and make a great photo on a consistent basis. But then it's also about making a compelling image, a compelling storyline, something that actually gravitates and pulls people in. And I think that there's um, just something to it. There's a weight to it of being able to have not just a great aesthetic to your work, but also have a great depth of content, of questioning, of thought process, of uh, just all sorts of different things within the image, right? Within the body of work. And I think being able to do that on a consistent basis. That's the thing is, I was listening to a conversation or a interview or a lecture from Joel Meyerowitz. I can't remember which it was, but Joel was talking about how back in the day, selling your work wasn't a thing. You only sold it to magazines. Magazines bought the work. And so, and it kind of goes against what we've been talking about. We live in a day and age to where even just selling something for $45 to $50 is completely different to back in the day. Like, they talk about it, like all these different photographers from back in the day have all these Bresson prints and Irwit prints, and because they were just giving prints out back then because they weren't of any kind of monetary value at that point. The idea of selling photography as a fine art piece of artwork wasn't a thing back then. We get to reap off of the benefits of the road that they paved. But what they did have that we don't have these days, I believe, I truly believe, is that because of that, because they didn't have this aspect of I'm going to make it with selling my prints, they had a thought process of I just have a passion for going out and shooting, for going out and discovering life, and for going out and having something to say. It was very much I'm going to go out there and I'm going to challenge myself to say something new today or to give a different aspect to the conversation. And kind of goes back to, at least this is my words for it, the conversation piece that we constantly talk about. But it's this idea of they were just challenging each other to say the things that they wanted to say in a better way. And I think I truly believe that's why so many of these guys from yesteryear, right? Gary Winogrand and Lee Freelander and everyone that we always talk about, Jay Maisel, everyone in that instance was being pushed along by editors, by each other, to create more engaging work because their work wouldn't sell if it wasn't more engaging. Their work wouldn't end up in the magazine if it wasn't more engaging. And they had to have something good to say because those magazines would not sell if it wasn't packed with stories, if it wasn't packed with engaging content, if it wasn't packed with stuff that challenged the viewer, challenged the reader, challenged the person that had subscribed to the magazine. Because if it wasn't challenging throughout the year, they would unsubscribe that next year. And it was these things that pushed them into the levels that made them the masters, and I don't say that lightly. I don't use these lightly, but it's one of these things where master in a lot of ways can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. But these masters of yesteryear, that's the thing that pushed them into it. They had to have an engaging, compelling conversation within their work, but they also had to package it within beautiful aesthetics and something that was appealing and appeasing to the eye, pleasing to the eye, however you want to say it. So I would say that that's the big thing, is there has to be a pairing between the two, not just the visual aesthetics, but also the emotional and deep rooted connection of making work that actually sells a story, making work that tells something greater than the individual image that starts speaking to the heart of humankind, right? That starts speaking to the human condition. And we hear so many guys of yesteryear. If you read through Bresson's writings, if you read through Sergio Lorraine or any of these guys that were cataloging, their reason why is they were documenting the human condition. They were talking to the actual soul and heart of mankind, or womankind, not to offend anybody. I'd say that a little salty, but I don't mean it that way. But it's one of those things to where having something deep to say with the artwork paired with being able to package it with amazing aesthetics is, I believe, at least in my mindset, the ideal of getting closer to that aspect of master. And I think in today's day and age, it just becomes that much more difficult to hit that point of mastery, because there's so many people that are flooding the scene. And I don't mean flooding in a bad way, but there's just this overwhelming number of great, incredible images taken today that you have to have something deep and meaningful to say that really speaks above and beyond all the rest. So that's kind of my closing thoughts on that. I'm going to cut it at that. So thank you guys. If you're we got a handful of people, 16 people. Definitely got to include the womankind too, Nick. Yes, thank you. But yeah, if you enjoyed this conversation, give it a thumbs up down below. Once again, a huge thank you to our Patreon crowd, our patron family, and I would love it if you would consider going over and checking out Patreon. So patreon.com/NickExposed to help continue to make these things feasible. But then also with like I was saying, I have a new direction. It's still similar direction, but I want to expand it. A new idea of what these 2-Minute Tuesdays, or whatever they end up becoming called, will turn into, as well as all the other content and all the things. And I want to be able to start spicing up the graphics of the channel a little bit more to make everything a little bit more visually appealing as well, and to be able to have time to pour into that, to be able to have the energy to pour into that. You guys supporting with your monetary love and generosity helps me to be able to justify taking that time and putting it into it. So thank you guys. It's patreon.com/NickExposed. Otherwise, just thank you for hanging out with us today. I love you guys. I'll see you guys on the next episode. There's an episode going up tomorrow morning, so make sure you check that out. It's all about zines from the community, stuff that I think that you guys are going to absolutely love. Amazing work from people here in the community, people here that we have in the chat every single week, and stuff like that. So thank you guys. Check out that video tomorrow. Check out the video from this morning if you hadn't seen it already, and then go check out some of the old videos as well while you're over here on YouTube. Pop over and watch one of the other videos before you take off. But I love you guys. I'll see you guys on the next episode, on the next live stream, and over on Instagram. Pop in and say hi. So until then, go and push yourselves 2 stops. Peace.